Here I am back again, folks, championing these unknown, unsavoured, badly reputed brands of guitars. This is a guitar I did a video on a while back. It got a few likes and a thumbs up, but still people don't know about these. These are ranch guitars. And I tell you, this guitar right here, I just set it up, is better than this Fender CD60 that I recently set up. It's better than a Martin X Series guitar that I just set up. It's even better than a couple of Ibanez entry-level acoustics that I recently set up. I'm not talking their Artwood series, I'm just talking about their standard $150, $200 guitars. This is better. It sounds better, it's made better, it resonates more, but it's unknown. And I was just recently in a friend of mine's guitar shop in the area where I live. Good young bloke. Has some interesting stuff in his guitar shop. And we were talking the other day, we were looking at his wall of guitars and discussing brands with each other, as us gear nerds, guitar nerds like to do. And you stand looking at his wall, you don't see Taylors, you don't see Martins, you don't see Fenders, you don't see Gibsons. He doesn't have any of the vintage brands. Because you can't get them. There are other guitar shops in the area that have been around longer that have got the distributorship for those particular brands. So he's having to hunt around and find alternatives, and he's decided that he's better off sort of targeting the student or learner or intermediate market. So you look at his wall and you see things like Dean Electrics and Acoustics, a couple of Luna acoustic guitars. I think he had a Hagstrom electric guitar, and some other things that are less well known. The sort of things that I've been doing videos on: Valencia, classicals, Flight ukuleles, just brands that aren't well known. And he told me that he literally has people coming into his shop, walking up to the wall, nosing about for about 5 seconds, then turn around and walking right back out. And it's obvious that they are a single or a 2, 3, 4 brand type of person. And I get some of those too. If it ain't one of the big 4 or 5, they're not interested. But interestingly enough, they're interested in the price. In other words, they come to look at a guitar. Let's say it's $300 to $250, with the intention of trying to work you down, but they want a guitar that is worth $1,000, $2,000. You get a lot of those, been there, done it all, know it all type guitarists. You can't tell me anything new. And a lot of times they're sort of working on old opinions. They may have been right 20 years ago. For instance, you get the types that they only want American made. That's it. I want American made. I don't want any Asian rubbish. Well, you got a couple of grand. We'll find you an American made guitar. Now, of course, there are some American made guitars that are cheaper, also, there are some American-made guitars that are just assembled in the US. The parts are still made in Asia. I know this for a fact because I work for 2 manufacturers. So you get sort of this cemented bias with people. And he was talking about it. He doesn't even bother trying to cater to those people because they come in with a preconception about everything, and they're just not going to be open to anything new. That's not to say that there aren't some cemented greats in the guitar world. I mean, the old Martin guitars, particularly the ones made by CF. You know, when he came over from Germany and he was making the Viennese style, and then he slowly found his own style that we know today. Those are fantastic guitars. You know, the early Guild guitars are great. Hell, the pre-Fender Guilds from all periods, even some of the Fender Guilds, and probably even the Cordoba era Guilds as well. You know, those are great guitars. The early Fenders, the mid 50 Fenders and Gibsons. We all know they're great. We do. Not all of us can afford them. And are they worth the amount of money that they're going to cost you when you look at an alternative, lesser known brand for a half, a third of the price? That's up to you to decide. I think sometimes they are, and I think sometimes they are not. You know, I've done a couple of videos about Telecasters and Stratocasters copies. And there are some, you know, brands that may be even better than the Fenders. Of course, they have the Squires. Some people swear by those being as good as, you know, the lesser Fenders or the imported Fenders. But there are others, and I'm not just talking about the complete no-name, bottom of the barrel brands that I looked at, like Cozart and Legacy and what was the other one? Indio. I mean, those are beginner guitars. They're not as good as the original Tellys and Strats. I would never claim that they are. But there are brands that are making those body types. G&L, you know, makes incredible guitars, probably even better than the ones they're copying. Heritage makes great guitars, probably better than the ones they're copying. A lot of times people move from one guitar company to another, and they have a hand in those copies. You know, a lot of guys from Fender, a lot of guys from Gibson have you know, moved to other brands and sort of brought that that wisdom and that expertise with them. I mean, Guild's a great case in point. You know, the guy that is running the American mid Guilds, I think, I'm not sure, on the East Coast somewhere, used to work for what's his name, Ren. Used to work for Fender, Gibson. You know, so he's got a lot of that heritage in his stylings, and it's the same with a lot of the in the acoustic world as well. You've got people taking those concepts and ideas, not always reproducing them exactly as well, but a lot of times proportionately as well when you look at the prices. You know, you find very, very good guitars made by Cort. You find great guitars made by the Godin brand, you know, Ford brands, like Patry Classicals, or let's see, Siegel, Art Lutherie, those kinds of things. You know, one of the purists might turn their nose up at that. You know, the Bedells and the Breedloves make really great stuff. Teton or Walden. There's a lot of really good stuff being made that is newer to our consciousness, the brands that we didn't grow up with, that are sort of trying to make inroads into the guitar world. Some of them are excellent. I had a chance to play a Reverend lately. I thought it was great. All their guitars sit in that 6 to 1,000 range, and they're very, very interesting. They don't copy. I think they only have one sort of Telly-ish type guitar, but they're doing their own shapes and their own, you know, their own aesthetic. You know, there's a lot in the electric guitar world, and I'm not just talking about you know, the handmade boutique type guitars. I'm talking about just up and coming brands that are offering something different that is good quality. And then when you get into the budget world, you know, with your Agiles and your you know, your Harley Bentons and your Vintage, which is a brand out of the UK, you get a lot of good value for money. And they really do compete with much higher end, much more expensive guitars if you set them up right, and perhaps in some cases mod them, improve them. So I never understand the snobbery. I really don't. It exists in all the worlds that I work in. You know, I'm a musician and a part-time luthier, so I see it there. But I also work for a publisher, and I see it in the publishing world as well. These old cemented biases that you just can't change with people. They're just locked in. You know, I'm also an educator, and I see it in the pedagogical realms as well. I see it definitely in music or approaches to music. You know, people listening to the same 10 bands they listened to in their senior year of high school, in their 50s, just not interested in anything new. That approach to life is what you find, particularly with people my age. I think we're the most guilty. You know, people considered middle-aged tend to just stick with what they know and don't really branch out, don't really experiment and try new things. So, you know, that's what my channel is all about. That's what my friend's shop is all about. That's what a lot of people that have signed up to my channel are all about. They want to learn about new possibilities, particularly it's going to save you money. And I always stress, learn how to work on these things, because if you're going to experiment, having a bit of setup knowledge, a bit of knowledge about how these things work and how you can adjust them, it's going to make that a lot more happy of a process. So that's enough for now. Just another one on guitar bands and snobbery. Sorry to bang the drum, but I feel strongly about it. There's a lot of good stuff out there, stuff I don't even know about, and I discover new things every day, every week, and I'll try to bring as many of those things to you as I can. See you next time.